Good morning. So it is October 26th, I believe, and I have planted all of our garlic out for the fall, and in this bed here is elephant garlic, and it's coming along nicely, and I wanted to document progress. So this is actually the center of our circular driveway, and this is actually meant for flowers, and of course that's our crepe myrtle tree there. But because we had just recently weeded this and added fresh compost, and there was nothing else in here beyond the bushes and stuff, I decided to plant the elephant garlic in here. So you can see that it's really starting to come up. And there's about 130 bulbs all around this entire space. There's an elderberry there, lemongrass. This will die back with the first frost. As you can see here, all this garlic, some of it actually is uncovered. I'm gonna have to put some more compost in here. See, it's kind of uncovered, but it's coming along nicely. I see that we've got crimson clover sprouting up. That's seeded from last year. We try to use a cover crop of crimson clover as much as possible because the bees love the flowers. So it's funny because when you use a cover crop, there's a certain window of time that you need to mow it down or till it in, or however you use it. We mow it down. We're not really tilling a whole lot, so we mow it down. But if you don't want it to go to seed, but you want the flowers, this is a very small window of time to mow it down, because I want the bees to take advantage of the crimson clover flowers. But if I don't want seed the next year, I have to be really careful and monitor it carefully. There's our mulberry, and it's starting to drop its leaves. End of season. Always makes me a bit sad during this time. My hibiscus is falling over. Some of it's dying back. The leaves are changing on it. So it's usually green, and then it starts to turn red. This one's still flowering. They're really beautiful flowers. The flowers are edible. The hibiscus is, this part right here, the calyx is edible. The leaves are edible. This is a really amazing plant. Lots of vitamin C. But what I really wanted to come out and document was the moringa. This one right here is probably 20 feet tall. Now it's not overly big around, as you can see. I mean, it's a decent size, especially since it dies completely back to the ground each year. You can see where it was last year, and then once it frosts, I cut it back. And then this just kind of rots away and falls apart. And then the next season, a new shoot springs up. And in this case, this one root ball produced 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 out of one root ball. So it's compensating for the fact that it's never going to be a 60-foot mature moringa tree. All the way up there. So it's kind of showing or displaying a bush mentality. See this one here? First year it had 1 shoot. Last year it had 2. This one and this one. And this year it has 4. 1, 2, 3, and then this little thin one right here. And it still grows almost 20 feet tall if you let it. I've been harvesting these guys a lot. This one, I think this one's 3 years also. First year it had 1 shoot. The next year it had 3. So 1, if you can see back here, 2, it's hard to see. And then the third one is right here. So last year it had 3 shoots. So this year it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 shoots off this one root ball. And it is probably more than 20 feet. This is probably my biggest one. So it will never be a 60-foot moringa tree like it is in the tropics. But here in coastal Georgia, I can get very, very tall in one season, and I get lots of moringa leaves off of it. So it's not all bad. The trick to keeping these tropical trees alive when you do get frosts is mulching heavily. So here in the next couple days, you can see that this is just the dirt right here and, well, and the irrigation. But there's very little, it's a very thin amount of mulch around this. This is not sufficient enough. This would kill the root ball. So we're talking 6 to 8 inches of wood chips to insulate the ground around the root ball to keep the roots alive until spring. So I'll come back through all of my moringas. I have about 100 in this space. I've experimented with how far apart you can plant them. Let's go this way. So these guys are planted super close together, more like a hedge. And now they look really sad because I've been harvesting these and feeding the moringa leaves to my rabbits. So that's why they look so puny. But they don't grow as tall as the other ones because they are so close together. But you can grow them as a hedge. That was a sunflower right there. But all of these guys, and when I harvest the leaves, I leave just a little bit of growth at the top. Or I'll leave growth. Let's see if I can find one. I harvested all of those recently. Let's go over here. Okay, here's a good example. So if this tree were really tall and I wanted to harvest the top half of the tree, I would cut the whole thing here. I mean, if you think it's 20 feet tall, you cut it back to about 6 feet. You harvest everything from the top, but you leave a few of the lower branches, and then it'll just keep on growing from the 6 foot mark and then keep going. So all these little guys. Soil fertility is a big deal too. Right here in this section, the soil is not as good, and these guys never got bigger than this. I mean, this is probably 3 feet tall. Oh wow, look at that. That's a asparagus. I didn't plant that. It seeded from our asparagus bed. And I can't remember what I planted here. I think it's Marion berries though. This is such a mess. I've got to come through here and weed everything. But a lot of this stuff will die here soon with the first frost. This is our dwarf Meyer lemon, and I've had it for 6 years, and this year is the very first year it's produced 1 lemon. Just one. You can kind of see it starting to ripen right there. You see it right there. It's starting to ripen and turn yellow. The funny thing about this plant is that I've taken lots of cuttings from this and rooted them and made new plants from this one parent lemon tree. And I've gotten those to fruit already. I've had one of them produce 2 lemons, and it was a tiny little tree, which is kind of funny. But this one finally has 1 fruit. Let's see, I thought this was dead. This is a fig, but now that we've got it mulched really well, it's starting to show signs of life. Blueberry, I love how they turn red in the fall. More asparagus that I didn't plant. So our asparagus bed is in this bed around the mulberry, and it makes the female plants create little berries that eventually turn to seed, and you can collect those and disperse them or start them in pots or just let nature take its course and they spring up all over the place. Next year these bananas are going to get moved. They've struggled for years. They've been here and never really gotten much bigger than this, so they're going to get moved here soon. Little prickly pear, I may move this to the outside of this fence where the rest of them are. I've got about 10 prickly pear plants on the outside of this chain link fence, so I might move that one too. More lemongrass. Back to the moringa we were at. This is a Thackahachy grass, another mulberry. This whole eyesore right here is going to be addressed here soon. Got to get this black landscape fabric out of here, and then we were probably going to put a fruit tree in here, either a pomegranate or a plum, and redesign this space so that it looks nice. So this is the last of the front yard garden that needs to be redesigned. There's an echinacea there. I see it flowering. Figs. I've got Tabasco peppers, basil. All of this hibiscus is turning red. I mean, the leaves rather. More hibiscus. These guys are just now getting ready to flower and produce calyxes. These papayas didn't get as big as I'd hoped. they're gonna die with the frost. I'm gonna try to see if I can cover it, but they're so tropical that I don't imagine they'll survive even with something on top of them, but we'll see. I'm gonna try. That's an Anna apple. It's tiny. It's gonna be forever before I have fruit off of it. Anna apples is one of the only apple trees that will produce here. It needs only 200 chill hours. In Georgia, we don't get much more than that. So that and the Golden Dorset, I think, is the other variety that has low chill hours. So I'm gonna try that one too. I just haven't found it yet. My turmeric is about ready to be done. It's flowered. The flower is dying back. Got some onions down there too. So I haven't decided yet, but last year I overwintered them in here and just let them keep growing. But I think I might harvest them this year because I want to use this big round bucket for dragon fruit. So I may harvest all the turmeric and then replant them next year somewhere else. The goldenrod is about done. Grows wild here. I didn't plant that, it just popped up. But I let it because I harvest it and dehydrate it and use it for herbal remedies. The fig is about done. It's so sad to me to see the end of the season, but it'll be so nice in the spring when everything springs back up. This hibiscus I have not harvested from in a while. I'm hopeful that I will get dried calyx pods and seed pods off of this plant. So I'm gonna try to save my seeds from this one so I haven't harvested. There's a goldenrod that's still flowering. Isn't it pretty? I've harvested all the tops off of this goldenrod here. Now the leaves are edible, the flowers are edible, they're both medicinal. You can use the leaves in salads, you can cook them like a spinach. Elderberry. I might take more cuttings from this guy, make new plants. This one's losing its leaves. It's about done. I've heard that hibiscus will come back, but mine never have. But I know people who do have hibiscus that come back from their roots the following year here in Georgia. So more crimson clover, self-seeded. My raspberry plants didn't die this year. It's the first time. Last year all my raspberry died in the heat. This bed is a mess. It's all overgrown. There's some broom corn there. You probably can't see it very well. And then back to our center circle. This is where we have the elephant garlic. There's my kitty cat Luna. Kiki. But there's an update. The end of October for the front yard food forest. Oh, I wanted to show one more thing. My very confused elderberry is blooming in October. I've never had elderberry bloom in October before, but this is a new transplant. I took cuttings from one of my other American elderberry plants, and it grew a lot this year and then decided to flower. Looks like we've only got 3 flower heads, but I just thought it was interesting. A few more little things I can show you. This is a star fruit. It died back in the frost. I thought it was dead, and then it sprung back up. So you can see I gave up on it and cut it down, and then it sprung back up. So I've got to protect this for the winter time. I might move it into the greenhouse. And then there's 5 figs in here, and a lot of Tabasco peppers. Some more elderberry cuttings in there that I rooted. So this is the end of October. A little update on our year 1 food forest.